So I was born here. My parents went to church here as they were growing up, and so my brother and I have really been here off and on throughout our entire lives. So I went here up until I went to college, and then went off for a couple years to school, and then really prayed about, when I came back from college, really prayed about where to go and where I felt like I would fit in and where God wanted me. And lo and behold, He led me right back here. And I've been here ever since.
And I actually grew up in the Baptist church. So when Ken and I got married, naturally, it was something that we talked about. Where are we going to go to church? Were we going to pick a completely different church, or were we going to stay in the Methodist church or go to the Baptist church? But not shortly after we got engaged, Ken actually came to me and said, I feel like God is leading us to Myrtle Grove and to stay in Myrtle Grove, and specifically for him to work with the youth. So naturally, that was an easy decision for us. And I really think I think it was honestly the first test that I had as we were preparing for marriage, the first test for me to follow the leadership of my soon-to-be husband. So as an independent woman who likes to make decisions for herself, that it was kind of hard, but no doubt in my mind that it was the right decision to make. So.
Since being here, can you think of what are some of the ways God is working in y'all's lives since you've been here? Or what you could even talk about and working with the youth since you've done that, or just however
You want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
Another way sometimes the word is, what has Myrtle Grove meant to you? So it's just anyway, to talk about what God has done.
So I was actually thinking about this the other day, thinking about what the church has meant to me growing up and really becoming a man here. And I thought about it like this. It's natural to me, because of this church, to have grown up in a time where I had so many good influences, loving adults, loving people that have been around me my entire life, that I wouldn't have had if it weren't for this church. And so I think about, not just my parents, not just my grandparents, but the congregation of the church as a whole that have loved me just like they've loved the rest of my family. And to have grown up in that environment and around those people, I think it's really meant a lot to me. And I don't think, like I said, it's natural to me. So it's not until I look back and really think about it that I realize the impact that all those people have had over the course of my life. And it's a really, really special thing. And I think I am the person I am today in part because of those people in the church that have really loved me and watched me grow up.
If you have anything to add.
Yeah. To come into a church after being married and just to have so much people who are so welcoming. I mean, I'm overwhelmed with the generosity and the hospitality of Myrtle Grove United Methodist. So even not growing up in the church like Ken has, but coming into it after a marriage and being so welcomed and loved and encouraged and discipled is huge when you're switching churches from a church that you've grown up in all your life. So.
Really cute next
What? Do you think, or could you talk for a second about, because I don't think most people in the church actually even know about student leaders, and for posterity's sake, let me just say, I became youth director in 2008, and I think, and I'm not exaggerating, I think you coming to work with the youth was one of the best, it was the best thing that ever happened to youth group in my mind. That's how I've always felt.
Great.
Completely seriously. And so, looking back at that, I'm no longer the youth dude, but I just think there's just like such pivotal fruit and discipleship that's taking place through you with the student leaders. I was just seeing if you could just real quick tell
Yeah.
about your role with it.
Where to start? So I think when I really felt God's calling on my life to come back to Myrtle Grove after college, it was with a really specific, I think, ministry in mind, and that was working with the youth. And I didn't know what direction that was supposed to take, and I didn't know exactly how it was going to flesh out, but I knew that God had put, a burden on my heart to start mentoring and reaching out to the younger folks that were in the church. And over the years, that's been great. And I think that was, maybe 8 years ago now. And, I'm blessed to say that for the most part, I've been really faithful in that ministry ever since then. And out of that, we've seen a couple of different classes or generations now of the youth group really unfold. And it's out of that evolution of the youth group that things like student leaders have taken place. So the student leaders ministry is 3 not so young people anymore, but young adults that we make it a point every Sunday morning to come together, to pray, to read the Word, and it's really a form for discipleship that has come out of working with the youth group. And the idea there is that, we're not just teaching young people and youth about Jesus. We're developing, people as they go through college, as they get out of college, and equipping them to pour back into the youth group and continue the cycle of, really evangelism inside the church.
Well, is there any other stories y'all want to share about Myrtle Grove? Whether a God story or a funny story or you can rip the lid off it and expose. You can speak your mind about Myrtle Grove if it's been grinding your gears.
And you know what really grinds my gears?
You
It
have
doesn't
anything?
have to be anything. It's just,
I have a story. This will probably not make the final cut, but it is a funny story. So, I'm trying to think of how old I was. We were probably 11 or 12, and I think a lot of older folks in the church would probably remember this, at least some that were connected to the event. And we were actually building the sanctuary. So the sanctuary used to be really small. It used to only be as wide as the columns down the center of the sanctuary. So we were remodeling the sanctuary, and in the meantime, we were having church in the fellowship hall, right out in the fellowship hall. And I can't remember if it was a Sunday or some other event, but a couple of us, me and a guy named Josh Martin and Luke Sheffield, we got into the construction zone of the sanctuary, and we actually climbed up in the scaffolding in the roof of the sanctuary, over top of the roof. And if you've never been up there, it's actually pretty cool. But there's a walkway that runs through the middle of the sanctuary up top above the ceiling. And so we were playing in that area and came all the way through the sanctuary and sort of popped out in the fellowship hall, in the annex of the fellowship hall, into a meeting of, I forget what kind of meeting it was, but into a class that was meeting in the fellowship hall. And so I remember it because we got in a ton of trouble for that. And Bruce Sheffield was the pastor, and we had to have a nice long chat with Pastor Sheffield on the importance of not climbing up in the construction zone on top of the sanctuary. It was a funny story, I remember.